So yes, 1,250 yards. This is what it looks like from our vantage point. Uh, Basically shooting across a gully, farmer's land there. It's a beautiful part about Saskatchewan, Alberta area. Here's another vantage point of it. Me and Buddy there. He's got the arrangement with the farmer, so little red dots there, 850 yards. Top one up there, 1,250 yards. This is looking at some cows where the 2-foot gong was at 1,250 yards. Was using my Remington 700 in 308 with a 20-inch barrel.
They're both in the middle of the plate.
Sending one.
You really got to make sure your crosshairs are horizontal.
Got it.
Nice.
Yeah. Welcome to the 1250 Club.
And there it is, sitting there all pretty on the range, the local range, with the Archangel stock. Glass on top is a Bushnell Elite, 3.5 to 21 power. It's a nice scope. I like it. What we're looking through here is basically the girlfriend there using her cell phone and my cell phone there combined, looking through the Vortex with a Crossfire 2 there. So a little grainy here. Maybe if I make the video a little bit smaller, it'll come out a little bit better here. But this is a review on the Archangel stock that I bought from Hi-Cal. Now a lot of you guys, like me, were on the waiting list there. I think it was something like 3 months, and for me, it was worth it. I like the look of it. It's clean. It was, good with a Dremel and a little bit of patience there. It's easy to install. The manual does say, it should just plug right in, but as with anything, as we all know, anything that is mass produced will have, some sort of work to be done to it to fit the way you just want it, and this stock was no exception. In any case, though, it does look good. Once when it is properly milled out, and if you don't need any milling out of it, out of the recoil area or the trigger group area, like I had mentioned earlier there in the first part of this thread, you're gonna get a nice clean fit. Now there is some fitting issues that I have with this stock here. You may have a different system going on, and you may get a different fit. For instance, right here, now I attribute this to the aluminum bedding block that is installed into the composite carbon fiber frame. What ended up happening with mine is that I ended up getting a slight axis shift when the rifle was torqued down. But throughout the day of shooting that I had, I didn't have any accuracy issues. Comparing it to the loads that I had been shooting all day and previous loads, accuracy was right on par. So the stock obviously isn't flexing that much underneath the weight of the bipod, excuse me, as opposed to where my Hogue stock, if any of you have owned those, you'll notice that there's a lot of flex in that stock. We're talking that if you don't go in there, remove the action, and Dremel or X-Acto knife a lot of the ribbing out of there from the recoil lug all the way up to right where your bipod is. Any amount of pressure that's applied by a bipod or a sandbag actually flexes your stock right up into your barrel, messing up your harmonics. So this obviously didn't seem to be the case here with this stock. Like I said, accuracy was right where it was, like with the Hogue stock. Once when I had done those modifications to it and cutting it out and giving it enough area to free float properly. So with the paper test, paper did go under, got all the way up to the recoil lug, didn't have any issues there. So you are getting a true free float. Now this is a heavy barrel. There is a lot of room, but as the picture showed, there isn't that much room on the one side. But I attribute that to the aluminum block being put in just ever so slightly cockeyed. Like I said, this is something that is mass produced. It's not on the high end of stocks that you can buy, but the quality is there. So this is just a slight little issue. If you don't mind it having sitting a little cockeyed, if you're not that type of perfectionist, then you're gonna get what you pay for, and you're gonna. The only other piece to the stock being cockeyed, or the action being cockeyed within the stock was right in my trigger group. Now, I don't know if was just because of the Timney trigger that I have installed, because the Timney trigger is a much fatter and piece of trigger there that you're getting onto with your finger, as opposed to the Mark X trigger. What I had there was the trigger actually slid into the side of the trigger well, if you will, and basically jammed up. So when I tested it, I could get the first shot off, just dry firing, but when I recocked and went to go pull the trigger, I wasn't getting anything. What I noticed was that the trigger was actually being held back. So you drop your bolt down, and then your sear is already released, so your bolt's just going right forward again. So a little bit of, like I said earlier, a little bit of X-Acto knifing, little dremeling was needed into the aluminum block. I'll just get to that in a second, but a little bit of knifing there in the side of the trigger well, and I was actually able to free it up. So it shoots clean now. I don't have any problems. There's no drag on it. It was just that little bit. The other thing I did notice was with any piece of any plastic component that you buy, there's always that molding trim there, and I did notice a little bit of that around the trigger area, and that could have very well been it as well, but I didn't notice it until I looked on the other side and noticed it on the other side as well. And so I'll attribute it partly to that too, just that little piece of plastic molding there that that kind of strays away from getting buffed out or ground out. The part with the aluminum block was on the Timney triggers. The adjusting screw sits out just a little too far. I didn't try the installation there with the stock trigger, the factory trigger from Remington, but I don't remember that little screw being on the front of my Remington trigger. So that adjusting screw would actually dig into the aluminum block, and once when I had the recoil lug area milled out and was setting everything, I would notice the recoil lug would go in, but the back of the action would stay stuck up. And I was tapping it with a soft hammer and kind of wondering why, okay, what's going on. And then after pulling it out, noticing the scratch marks into the aluminum block, I was like, okay, makes sense. Now, as for ergonomics of this stock, I found them to be quite pleasing. Lots of length of pull adjustment, comb height, it's very, very comfortable to shoot. Now, the problem I've had with this scope in the past was that it sits, and I measured it, 2.5 inches over, the center of the bore. So that's a lot right off there. And I had the Kydex cheek riser for that, and that thing was almost maxed out. The way I drilled it, it didn't make it quite comfortable. You couldn't get the quite the adjustment out of it. Now, this stock here, you get quite fine adjustment. I believe it's 1/4 inch or so adjustments, out of your cheek riser there. But it's solid. It's very solid. It's built well. It's got 2 pillars on either side of the adjustment screw, which is basically more of it's a corkscrew. It corkscrews it up and then sucks it back down. Same thing with your length of pull. Your butt stock gets sucked in and gets pushed out through a corkscrew method. Very, very similar to the Magpul PRS. I was in the gun shop there just yesterday. I tried it out just so I could get familiar with it, and so I had a fresh opinion of it. And this is much thicker. The Archangel is much thicker than the PRS. So if you're not a fan of something that's that's slimline like the PRS, and the Archangel is going to be perfect for you then. The PRS that I did use at the gun store, it was on a display model, so whether or not this is attributed to it with people playing with it, but the knobs were really easy to move. I found with this here, I'm going to go with it still being new, that it was hard to adjust. You couldn't just flick it nice and easily. Like with the PRS there, you could just click, away you go, up and down, back and forth. It was very, very easy to manipulate. With the Archangel, I had to basically kind of get, both thumbs on either side of the dial, and basically kind of, give her the little side swipe to crank her up and down. But I think over time this will loosen up for you and will eventually become much easier to manipulate. But you know, all in all, once when you have it set for you, there's really no point in having it changed. So, but you know, if you buy a different piece of glass and you put her on top, or you want to try something new, you want to put a foam pad on top, you change out your recoil pad, then maybe you do need to adjust it. So, but it's very positive clicks. They're gonna lock in, and actually I have the stock right here, narration, but you're getting tons of locking in there. So you can hear the spring going. It's something under tension, so it's gonna go. So actually I can change it right now with one hand. Oh, that spring, sorry, is actually the bipod. I have it deployed. But you can hear it. It's strong clicks. It's not going to go anywhere on you. The only wobble I found out of the two pieces was the butt pad. Sorry, not the butt pad, but that the length of pull area. It did have a little wobble in it, but when it's shouldered, you're on your sandbag. You get locked into your position there, and it doesn't move. You can't really tell if you got your muscle tissue and your skin there. That's gonna move around on you a little bit too, and basically that movement in the butt plate is gonna actually be absorbed by that. You won't notice it. I never noticed it throughout my time shooting yesterday there, and I put the better part of 60-70 rounds through the rifle yesterday, so I didn't notice any movement. The cheek riser never moved until somebody else went and grabbed the rifle and adjusted it for them. But it stayed strong. It was probably moved about 3 or 4 times yesterday, through maybe even a little bit more through me adjusting it, getting into my FFP, and Buddy getting into his, and just going about. But it once when it was locked in, it didn't move. It didn't wobble around, so when you go to get on your scope, you can be confident that your head is going to exactly land in the exact same spot. So if that's a big concern for you, this issue is addressed with this stock here. So to basically give the final opinion on this thing, let's talk about range day. Like I said earlier, the rifle performed well in the stock, or I should say the stock performed well. The action screws, they didn't seem to move. They didn't move at all throughout the day of shooting. I actually didn't use Loctite on it. When I was just basically installing it and getting it all together, it says in there to use some, I believe, red Loctite. If that's wrong, just let me know in the comments there. But to Loctite it and then screw it in, and it says in there to use 65 pounds per inch of torque. Pretty sure that's a misprint, unless there's 6.5 is what they meant. Can't exactly be sure, but I went pretty snug on it. So when you went to go and remove the action from the stock, it didn't take a little flick of the finger there. You actually had to put a little elbow grease into her. So, but the screws were still tight. They still required a lot of force after range day to remove the action. I didn't notice any other jarring scratch marks in the aluminum bed from either the recoil lug or from the set trigger, or for the set the adjusting screw there for the Timmy trigger. Didn't notice any other scratches there. If there is, they're very, very minute. So good indication that the stock isn't bouncing around in there, and that I also did my little part there, ensuring that I didn't remove too much material from this. So keep that in mind, guys, that if you're going to if you have to do some modifications to the recoil lug area, there's the two type. Don't forget that there is the two types of stocks that they have here. They have the aluminum bedded one and then the pillar bedded one. So don't know exactly what the pillar bedded one looks like internally, but the aluminum one there, you got your recoil lug sitting on the end of the aluminum block, and then you got your set screws, and then the aluminum block goes all the way back to the rearward action set screw. So if you're going to be removing any material on the aluminum one, I can't speak for the pillar bedded one there. Once when one of you guys gets that, by all means, make your own thread, or post in here however this wants to be done, to give us the idea how you guys did that. But with the aluminum one, I did have to use a Dremel with a metal bit on it there that would just grind away, and then just some just careful detail. Make sure that you're not cockeying the pillar or the block there, so that so if your rifle is going to sit cockeyed inside the stock, it's not because of what it's not because of what they did. It's going to be because of what you did. So keep in mind, watch what you're doing, little by little. That's the name of this game here, little by little. Any of the reloaders know, a thousandths could mean an inch down down range. So when you're seating your bullet, so that's the key to this thing here. In the firearms game, it's all about taking things step by step, watching what you're doing, and that's key here. The bipod feature, a lot of some guys were saying, I wish the bipod was removable slash adjustable. After range day, I couldn't agree more. I really missed the Harris bipod I had attached to the Hogue stock. There is a cutout forward of the bipod that where you could probably attach some sort of module there that could go in, and you could attach just a regular bipod to it. Or you could just, if you really want to get creative and you don't mind drilling and tapping, create your own sling swivel spot and just basically attach your own, make your own setup for it. The bipod is stable though. It's if you lean into it there, it isn't going to come back on you. As the picture is going to show, it's winged out, and it's going to come right back into the stock, so it can't slide back on you. Now the spring is a little chintzy. Just looking at it here, it's just one spring. There's no other means of spreading the arm, so that spring could come out. If it's bumped around right. Now, with the little bit of play, you get couple degrees of cant out of it, which isn't going to be a lot if you're on some unstable ground. If you do decide to take this platform out hunting, it's going to be a bit of a bitch. Sorry for the language for anybody out there that's going to church today. It's not going to give you enough adjustment if you're in the Rockies, or if you're out in the prairies. Even though it's freaking flat out here, there is that one little rock or that one little hill that will throw you off. So especially if you're doing your long range game, you want your holdover to be nice and level. So that's the only downside to that.
Hi.
You can see the dust with the naked eye.
The bipod is made out of metal and a composite. The one problem I had with the bipod was after I was putting it away after the long range shooting. I did notice the takedown pin was actually starting to come out, and in the picture you see there, it got quite a ways. Now, the load I was using was a 208 grain Hornady AMAX on top of 45 grains of Reloader 17. Now it's a hard hitting load compared to other 308 loads that I have tried, factory and hand rolled. That particular load is a sledgehammer for this thing. It hits a lot harder. You're gonna feel it. Thank God the recoil pad on this stock here is, it does its job. I wouldn't mind putting my limb saver on it, just to see how that goes, and see if it's kind of cut a little bit differently here on the stock. So you might have to do a little bit of playing with it. You might have to buy a different type of, an upgraded size, or maybe even downgraded size, depending on what action you have and what stock you previously had. So play around with that, but. Yeah, so I think the amount of recoil that I was getting out of that load was causing that piece to come out. But other than that, the bipod did hold up well. The bottom of the feet are serrated, so they will dig in a little bit, but not a terrible amount. Not as good as as I think it's the Accuracy International pegs that you can buy. They got the claws on them, which those will dig into frickin' anything. So if you want, you could tap something out, do your own little thing for it. There is on the bottom, you can see there's a hole cut out there, and I don't know what the purpose of that is. Can't find anything for it. It could be maybe they got an adapter where a claw could be installed on that. But I like some of you guys said, like, I wish it could be changed out. Now there is 2 Allen screws on top that you would have to remove the action for to access, and you could remove the bipod through that. I'm actually just looking at that now, and you actually probably could get your sling swivel in there now. I'll have to try that later and report and see how that one goes. I just thought about that right now as I was making this video here. So, but the bipod does tuck away nicely. The release lever here doesn't actually move with little force. You gotta really give it some pull back on it, which is good. The bipod won't fling out on you right away. It'll stay tucked away. Now the way it pops out is just forward of that release latch is your spring. You got a little block there on a spring, and it just pops it out, and it comes out with some force there. It'll and away you go. So for what you're getting, it's alright. It's not, like I said, this isn't top of the line type of deal, but it's, if you're sitting on the bench, it'll be okay. The one problem I did see with my bench that I was using was the bench was canted a little bit. It's been sitting there for 20 years, so it's moved around a little bit over the time. So I was having some trouble getting that, getting my crosshairs level, and fighting with it a little bit there. So kind of bounce around on the table, trying to find that sweet spot on the table. So, but it sits nice. It is sturdy, I find. Like I said, it won't, when you lean into it there to lock yourself in, it's gonna stay. It won't go anywhere. So the feet are flat up front, so they'll, if you got something that you can push into, they're gonna dig in. Like on my shooting mat, I got a couple ridges up there and the sewing, and I can lock it into there. It isn't gonna go anywhere too far. The pistol grip on this, I'm gonna just call it a pistol grip. It's very, very pistol grip like. It's similar to the Macmillan some of the Macmillan stocks out there, and it's whereas the Macmillan, it's got it's a little bit higher, back towards where your thumb is. It's it's higher up, whereas the Archangel, it's you got a lot of room. You can move your thumb down if you wanted. You can get different grips on this, which is really nice. That's what I really like about it. I got some smaller hands here, so with a glove, it fills out quite nicely. Buddies tried it out, and some of them had a little bit thicker hands, and they didn't seem to have a problem. They said it was very comfortable to shoot. It worked well, so it's going to work for pretty much all hand sizes, I guess, from those comments there. Other pieces to talk about here are your mag. I mentioned earlier, it's stagger stacked, but then they feed up to a center feed. My rifle does not like it. It's just my rifle. It never fed well from the Hogue factory stock. It jams it up on the feed ramp. Maybe I have to take it to a gunsmith and get that feed ramp slanted down more of an angle so it feeds up nice and easy. But it did require a little bit of force there to chamber some rounds. But like I said, that's just my rifle. You may have something different going on. So, but in any case, I don't really use the magazine. I can't with the loads that I'm using. Like as you can see there in that picture, there's quite a bit of height difference from a standard factory round. That's a 168 Sierra Match King, and then you got your Berger VLD 190s, and then you got that honkin' 208. The 190 and the 208 are set to where they like to shoot well on my rifle, and so they won't fit in the magazine at all. You know, if it was a long action, maybe I could get away with it, but in the short actions, you're not getting away with something like that. So you're single loading, and but the mag sits nice and high for the feed lips there, where the round will sit right on top, and it you can just single load cleanly. There's no issue there. So it won't sit down low where it has to hop up and then go in. It just rides right in there perfect. When it comes to the manipulation of the bolt, nothing in the stock gets in the way. Actually, well, I shouldn't say that. I did actually have to do a little bit of trimming right where the bolt comes down. Because of the swept bolt design, just as it comes down, it doesn't fully lock down. It engages the stock, and I did have to trim a little bit out there. I did do a little bit more, so I have complete clearance there. It doesn't rest on it in any way. So basically what I'm going for there is that if there's a heat change or a cold change, the stock won't shift, the metal won't shift to a point where now it's sitting on top, and I don't have a full, you know, bolt closure on the round. So that was the only the only outside modification I had to do to the outside of the rifle, or to the stock, sorry. But when it comes to removing the bolt, with many aftermarket systems, you run into some problems where you don't have enough clearance to remove the bolt, you can't remove the bolt, or you have to really contort this, you know, really contort the bolt in such a way that it'll remove. With the Kydex stock that I had on the Hogue one, that piece there, I could get it back. It would go underneath and into the stock, underneath the Kydex stock, and then I had to kind of start wiggling around, and then eventually it would go. With this here, the three pictures here show that it comes back. You release the bolt, you can pull it all the way back. Now it's free of the action, and then I basically just had to tilt it up, and then it was out. No crazy manipulations, nothing extreme. Just a quick, you know, up and in, and it was back into place. So racking the bolt was never a problem. It never contacts, you know, your cheek riser. It doesn't grind against anything in there. There's plenty of it's clean that way. I don't know how a straight bolt would work. Not a straight pull bolt, sorry, like the bolt is instead of swept back like my Remington here, it just comes straight down. I imagine those wouldn't have any problem fitting in there properly. And basically it, guys. Over at High Cal, you guys can get these things there. I don't know who else is getting them in. I believe right now, from all the searching that I've seen, the only Canadian distributor that I've seen for this particular stock is High Cal, and I first time dealing with them, and they were an absolute joy to deal with. Put in my pre-order, they got back to me and says, the pre-order's in, we'll let you know right away. And they weren't kidding. They let me know right away. The day that they made the post for the stock coming in on the Canadian Gun Nut forums is the day was, I think I got the email just before that, actually, if I remember the timestamps were correct. You know, put the order in, and I put it in on the Monday, the holiday Monday, and I got it, you know, 2 days later. I think, 2 days later, so I got it. So, quick service, you know, it real joy to deal with those guys over there. All in all, I paid $418. That, you know, if you guys are outside of Alberta, you guys are going to hit with, you know, the HST. We just get the 5% out here, so you can curse at me all you want, but, you know, there's more room out here for you guys if you guys want to come out. But $418. This is for the aluminum bedded. The pillar bedded is $349 if I remember correctly, so you're paying a little bit less there. So, and yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Great stock. You can't go wrong with it. I'll post some pictures there of just what the groupings kind of look like that I was getting in out of the Hogue stock. But like I said, this didn't change my point of accuracy, you know, or sorry, my point of impact. Accuracy stayed the exact same. The only adjustments I had to do is when I had remounted the scope.
Sending one.
You really got to make sure your crosshairs are horizontal.
Got it.
Nice.
Yeah.